Hello and welcome to the fourth CTIS walk-in clinic. My name is Roxana Spulver and I'm a Change Management Officer at EMA. Let me first start with some housekeeping rules. We will be using Slido to collect questions. Here's how to use Slido. Go to slide.do and enter the code on the screen, hashtag clinic4, or scan the QR code on the screen. The code and the QR code will be visible on all the presented slides for ease of access. You can ask your questions there and give a thumbs up to any questions you want to see answered. We will answer the most popular questions first, so please ensure to use the thumbs up feature. Please keep the questions focused on CTIS functionalities. If the video screen is blurry or difficult to see, please read the instructions in the gray box underneath the video on the event page. There, you can find a link to watch the live broadcast on full screen. In full screen mode, you can increase the video quality by clicking the HD button on the bottom right of the screen or choosing the 720p or 1080p setting. For more information on CTIS, you can consult various resources. Some of them are listed on this slide: the CT Highlights newsletter, the training and support page, and for guidance on CTR interpretation, you can consult Udrolex Volume 10. I would now like to introduce you to our experts. Noémie Manon, Principal Scientific Administrator and leader of the Operation Workstream for the Clinical Trial Information System, enabling the application of the Clinical Trial Regulation. And Ana Rodriguez Sanchez Beato is our CTIS Deputy Program Manager and has been involved in the implementation of the Clinical Trial Regulation and the development of CTIS, providing a business perspective. I am now handing it over to our experts.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Looking forward to this session, and hopefully we can answer some of your questions. And for those that perhaps we are not able to answer, we can point it out where you can find the answer to the question, or we can try to follow up after the meeting. I hand over to my colleague Noémie.
So good afternoon. So very welcome to this fourth walk-in clinic. So as Anna and Roxana were saying, we will shortly be presenting the questions, and we will try to answer as many questions as we can in the time allocated today.
Thank you, Anna and Noémie, and I will now share the questions that have already been asked in Slido. And we have the first question regarding documents deletion documents that have been mistakenly uploaded.
Okay, perhaps I can take that question. For this particular question, which appears now in the second place, just to let you know that when an incident is reported to our service desk, I mean, the first priority is to ensure if the incident is blocking the user to proceed. So I'm not sure if in this case we are talking about there was a problem with uploading the documents. So the service desk, we will try to help that particular user for that particular incident. So what happens is if there are similar incidents that are reported, then this become, let's say, a problem, and is when we will try to find a definitive solution. But obviously, because there are incidents reported over time, we need to prioritize which are the most relevant. So we cannot let you know when this particular point can be addressed, but obviously if it's an important problem that may prevent user to proceed and submit an application, for sure will go at a higher priority, and we will try to address it as soon as possible. But we cannot let you know specifically for this particular point, also because, as I said, Help Desk is more dealing with all these incidents. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Anna. So I will take the next question. The next question is on the deferral rules. And specifically, the question is focusing on the GMP compliance documents. So here we're talking probably manufacturing authorization and QP declaration. The deferral rules are specified, obviously, in the transparency documentation. Potentially, they're not so specific in relation to those particular documents that we see there on the question. However, we need to understand that if in case there is a deferral to the information related to products, especially in the case of a category 1, where the majority of the documents are basically deferred for a certain period of time, that would certainly apply to the relevant documents that are uploaded within the folder related to a product. Now, obviously, as the rules and the categorization goes from 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and 3, obviously the deferral rules are not as wide and cannot apply to quite a few documents. So I think it's important to take into consideration the category and also the phase of the trial. I think, as you've mentioned, there's not specific. You probably pointing out that there's a lack of, let's say, information on this. For information, we are currently preparing to training material on deferral, and we will certainly ensure that clarity is provided in order for the user community to understand how the deferral mechanism is actually working out in CTIS.
Okay. Just to complement on this particular point on the deferral, we have a document that is named Structured Data Form, where you have all the fields and the document, and it has been raised the proposal if we can also indicate, well, as Noema has indicated, depending on the category, the different deferral will apply, but at least to indicate, okay, this more be aligned with the publication of product information, or so we will need to find a way that we can provide some advice in relation to this that may help, but this is works that need to be planned and done. I will take the next one, the document version and date when uploading documents in CTIS. Which date and version should the sponsor use? There are different options, so what you have to use is the version and date of the document that you have in your system, because if you have prepared a document and it's version 2, and then you go to the system and you say that you are uploading the version 2 that you keep in your system, because then later you can go back if you have questions in relation to this version. You will go to your version in your system, you will change it and upload a new one. So it's not put the version when you have submitted the document or when you upload it. It's the version that normally you have in your document management system, and or the version that you are managing in your in the name of your document. So it's, for me, is the first point.
Okay, thank you very much, Anna. The next question is on the how to actually proceed when the sponsor is uploading a track change document. So this is a document where obviously you will have the ability to clarify in the title that it is indeed a track changes document. That I think that would be quite helpful for the member state if you do so. Now, I think the question is asking whether it should be uploaded as for publication or not for publication. I think this is not the first question we're getting on this. I don't think EMA can provide you with a way forward on this. We are clarifying with the member states, and I think this is a question I would like to leave on hold, and I cannot respond as such because we are liaising with the member states on this particular point. I think this is very much up to them to decide how they would like it. So this is why I'm saying I'm leaving it on hold. Thank you.
Okay. We have this one. If non-interventional trial are not required for submission in CTIS, what are the requirements for a sponsor to submit? I think Clinical trial are subject of clinical trial regulation or clinical trial directive until the transition period finish. But for non-interventional trial, they are subject to, as far as I know, to local regulation, and therefore you, depending on where you want to run these trials, you need to liaise with your competent authorities and identify what are the requirements. But for sure, it's not via CTIS.
So the next question is about a particular placeholder in the clinical trial information section. This section is called clock stop. So here it says the section is empty. Okay, so in fact the clock stop is a place where the sponsor will have the ability to upload an agreement that they would have obtained from the member state before they actually go and submit their application. I think this is the way it was initially designed for the system to work. I think by default, what happens is that by default, when the sponsor is providing an application, let's say, and look at it from in the winter time. So if you were to submit an application on the 1st of December, I think by definition and the way the system is set up, the clock stop would apply during the 23rd of December up to the 8th of January of the following year. This clock stop is to enable member states to take their vacation, obviously. And this ability is to ensure that the task due date would not be calculated within a time period that would fall within this time slot. Now, obviously, if it's an urgent study and if you wish to have no clock stop, you would have the ability to submit your application on the 1st of December and asking for no clock stops to be implemented in the timelines. In such a way, then, you will have the ability to then provide a document to say agreements, because you would need to obviously discuss with the member state beforehand, obviously. So this is the purpose of this placeholder.
Okay. So I can take the next one. Additional country requirements. Germany and Czech Republic have requested that principal investigators CB include the trials that APIA is currently working on. This is not in the regulation or reflected in the SIP. I'm not sure what is SIP, Translated Templates or the EME templates. I'm not sure either what you mean by the EME templates, because EME as such has not published any template. It has been the Commission in the Judrales Volume 10. I'm not sure if you refer to those, but my advice is that you refer to the question and answer that is published. Not the question and answer. If you go to the Judrales Volume 10, to the section linked to the clinical trial regulation, and the Commission has published several templates, and one of those is the one related to the principal investigator CB, and therefore the expectation is you follow provide the CB according to that template, because bear in mind that these templates have been endorsed by the clinical trial expert group that is run by the Commission and chaired by the Commission, and is represented by the delegates from all member states and from ethics and competent authorities and ethics committees. So therefore, you should refer to that template, and still, if you have any further questions, my recommendation is that you address those to the European Commission, because they are responsible for this.
Thank you, Anna. The next question is quite specific, and it is about deferral. It is about deferral in case of a category 1. The sponsor, and I think this is from the transparency rule, the sponsor would need to provide a justification on why the investigator's brochure is to be deferred. However, it says for category 3 trial, yes, the justification for deferral would be published at the time of decision. And then for category 2, that does not require any justification. I must say, this is the way it's specified here. I cannot remember whether this is exactly as it is in the transparency rules, and we would need to come back to you on this one. I would want probably to make a note on this, and then we will take this question at the next walking clinic, although it won't be on the on the list, obviously, but we will take this question and clarify the justification to be provided for the investigator's brochure in case of a deferral.
Okay, I will take the next one. Does CTIS permit overlapping RFIs such as an ad hoc RFI being submitted while a validation or assessment RFI for a substantial modification is underway, or would CTIS only permit a member state to submit one RFIs? Yes, as I understand that this is depending on the process. So obviously, if you are have a substantial modification under evaluation, there could be, you may receive an RFI, but if at the same time that member state has evaluated a notification and they initiate an ad hoc assessment and they have questions, for sure they can submit another RFI related to the evaluation of that notification. So there is not, it has not to be one depending on the functionality that is being used. So you will receive different RFIs for different clinical trials that related to different activities in the system, like the evaluation of notification or assessment of substantial modification or evaluation of another trial in relation to an additional member state. So, and you will find those in the RFI list. That is one of the tabs that you will find at the top when you log in CTIS.
Okay, thank you very much, Anna. In fact, I would like to take the question just below, because the reason is that it's not the first time we are getting this question. I think we did have it last time. This is about the ability to submit in the system an urgent safety measure notification for a study that is halted. And the requester here is saying that in the sandbox, it appears that if the study is halted, USM are not possible. So I must say, we had the question last time, and we responded that in the case the study was halted, it should be possible to submit an USM or a serious breach or otherwise another. Yes, it should be possible. I did check the requirement, and it appears that it should be possible. So what I would want to suggest to the person who's actually put this question is to send the actual step that they've done in the sandbox that prevented them from submitted urgent safety measures, because we would need to understand exactly what is the scenario that led to their for them to not be enabled to submit such a notification in the system. So if you could do so, that would be good. Thank you very much.
Okay, so here is when a new version of a document is uploaded in CTIS, it seems that if we try to update the title of the document in CTIS from version 1 to version 2, for example, the title of previous version changed as well, making it impossible to include such details in the document title in CTIS. First of all, I don't think you need to include those details in the title of the documents, because in CTIS, you have the option to include what is the version of the document. So when you try to update, when you upload a document, there is a pencil that this is the update, so you can change the title, and then you can indicate if this is a new version, and then you can put the version 2. I'm not aware of this issue that if you change the title, it should it disappear as you explained here. So my recommendation is, if you experience this type of problems, please report those via help desk, and then we will try to investigate what is the root cause of those, and if we can do a data fix in your case, or later implement even a more definitive solution. So just to point out that at this stage.
Yeah. And to complement your response, Anna, it's very true that this pencil only appears in the placeholder where the sponsor is able to update a document. So at the moment, you must have noticed that if there is an RFI, you will not be able to update the cover letter. That's per the current specifications, obviously, of the system. And obviously, within the cover letter, you would not be able to update the document title. I think there's only a few places where the placeholder is not enabled in case of an RFI, but the cover letter is a good example. But normally, as commented by Anna, you should be able to change the document title with the pencil icon. So the next question is when entering a submitted application, the section All Documents is presented as a table. There is a column name System Date that reflects the document version name when uploaded when uploading a document. Should this date be a date on the document or a date of document upload to CTIS? So the system date is it's a very useful date for us at the agency, or in terms of the technical verification of the document upload, because the system date in principle should reflect the date of the document was actually indeed uploaded to the system. So you will have a version. So when you create an initial application, as soon as you upload a document, you will create version 1 of the document, and that will be system version 1. And you will also have a system version date. And this system version date corresponds to the upload of the document. Now, the question is, should this date be a date on the document? Absolutely not. It doesn't need at all to go on the document. This is very much for the system technical purpose of looking at the versioning, etc. What is required for you to put on your document, and this is specified in the clinical trial regulation, you need to have a version and a date. But this is your date and this is your version. And as you've noticed, when you upload a document, you have the ability to put in the metadata of the document the actual version of the document. And I think Anna has already covered that, as well as the date. And this is your own date, obviously. Yeah?
Okay, I will take this question. Do we need to upload separate cover letters for part 1 and part 2? The answer is no. So when you prepare an application, the structure is the same regardless of the type of application, if it's part 1 and part 2, or part 1 only, or part 2 only. So you always start with the form, then part 1, part 2. So depending which is the type of application you are preparing and drafting, you will fill it in the corresponding applicable session. So, but the first one is the form, and in the form is where you will place the cover letter. So if the application you submit is a part 1 and part 2, you will upload a cover letter that will be linked to that particular application. If you submit an application that is part 1, you will upload under the form the cover letter which is linked to the application part 1, and the same for part 2. So that is how it works. So you are not expected to, for example, if your application is part 1 and part 2, to have a cover letter in the part 1 and another cover letter in part 2. No, there is only one cover letter under the form section.
So the next question is about the sandbox access. We, obviously, as you know, there is a survey. The survey was closed on the 31st of March. And it's very correct that it took us some time to actually review this survey, and certainly to think about how to maximize the access to the sandbox. So we are currently on a very good journey here, and we should be able to provide feedback to the requesters, or the people who've actually completed the survey by next week, I think. Yes. And then I think it should be very good news for most of the requesters. And we will certainly, if we don't provide access to all of you straight away, please be patient. We should be able to provide access at in a very short time to the others. So we're currently discussing that early next week, but I think it's hopefully we can satisfy everybody. Thank you.
Okay, does CTIS permit cross-reference to documents such as the IMPD under the directive? Currently, there are few studies in CTIS for investigator-initiated studies to cross-reference to. And the answer is yes, and perhaps here Noemi can confirm that what I'm saying is correct, but in the part 1 you have a section is associated clinical trials, and there is where you can refer to those trials that you are indicating here in your question. And obviously, for example, if you are going to refer to the IMPDQ and if you don't upload it in the placeholder that is in the system, you have a justification that you have to enter, and there is where you can indicate, okay, we have associated this trial to this one where we are using this IMPDQ. But Noemi, perhaps here you can confirm that if my statements are correct or complement.
Certainly to complement, Anna, and just to add that the Commission has actually included a Q&A on this particular topic. So please do visit the Q&A that is available on the European Commission website, because this certainly should help you to maximize the use of the tool, and also to ensure that you're basically adhering to the legal framework. Huh? So the next question is about how will the member state actually approve an application. So this is about an initial application that has been for which potentially the ethics committee of the member state does not approve one of the sites. So will the ethics committee reject one site and can approve the others, or will they have to decline the whole trial in the country? So in order to respond to this, I think we need to understand that a decision that is given by the member state applies to all documents, all structured data, and there is no way to decide that I pick and choose and approve parts of the application and not another. So this means that the sponsor needs to provide a clinical trial dossier that is of high quality, and whenever there is a request for information, that they have the time, although we know it's a short time, 12 days or 10 days for the validation, to actually address the member states' questions. In case there was a query about or a consideration in relation to one of the sites, you would need to revisit the part 2 during the RFI response, and potentially you would need to delete one of the sites if there is a question, or if you feel that you will not be able to respond to the question appropriately. This functionality exists in part 2 at the time of the RFI. You can delete the structured data. You can obviously replace or update the documentation accordingly to ensure that your application will certainly be authorized.
Okay, so I will take the next one. Are responses to ad hoc RFI notification, annual safety report queries on ICSRs, etc., publicly visible? And if so, is it the fields and the supporting documents that are? So I want to clarify. First of all, it will be made publicly available whatever is required by the legislation, by the clinical trial regulation. So annual safety report, if you look at the regulation, it doesn't indicate that this should be made publicly available. So ASR are not going to be in the public domain. And notification, the answer is yes, because notification clearly has to be submitted through the portal to the database, and whatever in the database will be made publicly available. However, any evaluation done by the member state in relation to those notifications and the RFI is a functionality that has been included in CTIS to facilitate the supervision of clinical trials. But again, there is no requirement in the legislation to make this information publicly available. So here the answer is no. And and again for SUSARs, in fact, they are not captured in CTIS. It's a separate system, and therefore it will follow the rules in that system. But in principle, they are not published either. So just to clarify that.
So the next question that we have here is about the cover letter, and it's about the content of the cover letter. So shall I remind you that in principle, the EMA, we're only managing the CTIS system, and this is the kind of question you would want to further clarify with your member state. But to really cover, to really guide you, you have the Annex 1 of the clinical trial regulation that is quite clear about the content of the cover letter. And in fact, there is no need to list the document as such in the cover letter.
Okay, so now I'm not going to take this question. I'm going to take the following one because it's the one I was looking at to answer. So here is for annual safety report submission. Field contract or legal representative is the same from a sponsor. What should be entered here is the no. Here is a tick box. So the thing is that previously the first section you have to complete when you are preparing an annual safety report is the sponsor details. And then here, if when you have another, so you have the first section is organization detail of the selected sponsor. So you have to complete that. And then you have another section that is contact details for annual safety report submission. Okay, and here you have the tick box that it says contact or legal representative is same from the sponsor. So if you tick there, it will be populated automatically that information in the fields that you have, because it will be taking this information from previous section that you have already completed. But if the legal representative is different from the sponsor, because the sponsor is located in another country, then you will have to put the details of the legal representative and populate it manually, obviously.
We have another question about the timing of when the template for compliance with the regulation on GDPR will be made available. So I think I'm afraid I can't give you a date. As you know, we are looking into this. There is an initiative that is certainly doing this with our colleagues from the Commission. But I'm afraid I can't give you a date. I don't know if Anna, do you have any information on the timing of this template?
No, I know that this is in the radar by the Commission, and they plan to prepare a template, but I presume will not be available probably until the end of the year, by the last quarter of this year. But so this question also has come up in other working clinics, and as I said, the Commission is aware of this.
Okay, thank you very much, Anna. The next, there is a question that has been popping in and out. It's the second one on the second one that we see there about the occurrence of an unexpected event. So here it says, if the unexpected event occurs in an animal study, which country should be selected? Country of occurrence. I guess this is the answer. The form that you will have, the pop-up that you have here, when you populate the unexpected event, enables you to record the country of occurrence, and please do as you've suggested here. It's definitely the place where this unexpected event definitely occurred. That should work out. Thank you.
Okay, I will take the one on the size limit because this is the one that was before. Okay, with the current file size limit of 10 megabytes in CTIS, some larger documents are submitted in multiple parts. When this is raised to 50, will a sponsor need to update each document, or will a single document suffice? Well, I'm not sure if it's clear this question to me. But obviously, when this capacity of the documents increase, I mean, if there is an opportunity because you are going to submit a modification or whatever, then you can take the opportunity to replace all those files with only one document, because that's what for me has sense. So that's what I would do. I mean, I cannot give you an answer because I'm not sure. We don't have too much experience up to now because this change has not been done. But in principle, you will have probably the opportunity to replace those 5 documents by only one. But perhaps this is something that we need to follow up and check.
So the next question is about the third-party organization. So currently in CTIS, the sponsor can actually provide in structured way the name of the organization to whom they've actually contracted out duties. So there is such a possibility within the sponsor section. And here, I think the requester is asking whether they should only list the third parties performing the task for EEA and based in EEA. I think the answer is no. I think you could imagine so many different scenarios. You could think of a central laboratory based in outside of the EEA. You could think of a monitoring organization that is potentially based outside of the EA but would travel in EA. I guess there's so many different scenarios. It's not possible to draw a rule that is so strict and to say that only applies to companies based in EA. I think that's probably not the way to look at it.
Okay, do close site with.
Sorry, I'll bring it up right now.
Do closed site with only screening failures need to be entered in CTIS? Well, I mean, you will submit the application with the sites you want to involve for that particular trial. And therefore, then when you have the authorization of the trial, you will start the recruitment. And if some trial cannot recruit any patient, then you will have to communicate that to the authorities and indicate that this site should be closed. That, I presume, should be the approach.
So the next question is about satellite sites need to be entered in CTIS, and if so, how are satellites to be entered in CTIS? I guess here it's going quite into the detail of how you want to administer your structured data. The intention of the structured data and the way it is collected in CTIS is very much to inform the public on which site is involved in which study. Now, satellite sites are depending on another primary site, let's say. So my suggestion here is not to go into so much detail and to record only the site where, which is called, potentially you might be calling it primary site, and that should really suffice. Otherwise, you will have a very, very long list of structured data, which is not really helpful for the public.
We are getting closer to the top of the hour for this event, so I would suggest 2-3 questions at most. Thank you.
Okay, the next one is, what is the process for the submission of third country inspection report? For example, figure timeline, requiring information, documentation, apart from the inspection report itself. Well, I don't, how it works is that in the system for that particular trial of concern, you will have to, under notification tab, you have the possibility to submit the third country inspection report, and you will be asked to complete a form where you have to provide some information and update that report. That is how it works in the system. You need to complete a few fields. I don't remember by heart exactly what's the, I probably is the country and there is a placeholder for the report. But as I said, you have to complete there's a pop-up window with a form that some fields that you need to complete. If you want to have more details, again, we have published the structured data form that contains all the fields and documents that are in the system in relation to different application and notification, and you will see there what is the information.
Okay, so then the next question is, do sites closed while the trial was under the clinical trial directive need to be included in a transitional application in CTIS when transitioning to CTR? I think the answer is clear, it's a no. Only specify the sites that are ongoing, that are open, and obviously any member states that are still doing the trial as well. Huh? So we take a last question.
Yes, last question.
I can take this one. Is OMS registration for third country central lab still required? I mean, whenever you have to enter an organization in CTIS, the first step is that you need to search in OMS to find that organization. So if you find it, it's obviously because you have previously registered directly in OMS. Otherwise, you have the option to register that organization in CTIS, and then it will be sent to OMS for them to do then later the validation and so on. But I want to highlight that we are going to introduce a change in the system. And in the particular case of the third country vendors, or it's intended to switch off the possibility to submit information to OMS, and you can have it only in CTIS, so you will not have to register directly in OMS unless you think this is a site that you often use and it's worthy to have it in OMS because you don't have to enter the information every time you do an application. So there will be the possibility that you register the site directly in OMS, in CTIS, and it will not go to OMS. And this is something that is planned to be done to switch off this submission to OMS from CTIS, not only for third country, but also in relation to serious breaches, and also even in relation to investigational sites. Because we have received incidents from users having difficulties because sometimes the communication with OMS is not working properly, or because it's a burden, especially when the site is not very often used, etc., etc. So therefore, we plan a change in the system in a short term. Probably, I think it will be done by June, if I'm not wrong. So therefore, you will not have to register these third countries in OMS. You will have to do it directly in CTIS.
Okay.
Thank you, Anna.
Thank you.
Thank you for attending the CTIS walk-in clinic. The post-event survey, where you can provide your feedback for this event, will become available on the EMA event page, where you have also been able to view the event. A recording will be made available on the EMA website following the event. Please sign up to the CT Highlights newsletter to find out when the videos are available. The questions that were asked will be used as input to EMA training and support materials. And we would also like to remind you of some next events hosted by EMA on CTIS. On the 2nd and 15th of June, we will hold the 5th and the 6th session of the walk-in clinics. And on the 31st of May, the next bite-size talk will happen on modifications in the clinical trial application. We hope you have enjoyed this CTIS walk-in clinic, and we look forward to hearing your feedback in the post-event survey. Thank you, Anna. Thank you, Noemi.